Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to Terratech with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome to our very low-flying skybase. In today's video, we are going to be continuing to build the skeleton of the skybase, so that we can spawn it into the campaign, and finally, start with our final project, because I've decided something a little bit odd. Rather than build the base completely in the R&D mode, what we're going to do is complete the skeleton, so we're going to have at least one hangar, and maybe convert the other section into something interesting, and then that will be what we spawn into the campaign. The reason is, it's already incredibly expensive, it's going to be an utter nightmare to spawn in, and I think it's going to be way more fun to have the functional skeleton, so we can actually place it and let it fly, and then continue to build it up episode by episode, making it look prettier, adding more functional components as we think we need them, and overall it will be a major end goal to have a colossal skybase, and maybe smaller skybases in addition to that. And the reason for the little skybases is actually a brand new item, because sadly in the last video I completely missed there was in fact a brand new update which has added the better future air receiver. It's also made these gyros here finally part of GeoCorp, which is both good and bad. It's bad because I won't be getting them as random drops anymore. It's good because we can actually craft them, and we don't have to rely on the random drops, which is really, really nice. I think the same is said for the flail weapons, the flail guard, so lots of things have been moved around, but the thing we're focusing on right now, rather than a full update video, is the better future air receiver. This is phenomenal. It's a game changer in terms of skybases. So how it works is as follows. Right now, I'm just scrapping a few items down there in that little mini base. That mini base will of course scrap the items, as I just mentioned. The resources go down the conveyor and to the delivery cannon. Normally, these will be sold. But as long as we are directly above the cannon, yep, the air receiver steals the item rather than letting it be sold, and then we can move resources from the ground to the skybase, which looks amazing. Now, there is one problem with this, which I'm now showing off. If we go a little bit higher, as I just tweak the altitude, there we are, it doesn't work. We are still in the correct position for this to work, it simply has a limited range. So if we go back down, that should work, assuming we actually have some resources in the cannon. There we are, and it works again, absolutely fine. So, my idea is, we can have smaller bases using the air receiver and a single delivery cannon in between the ground and the main skybase. So the cannon fires up to the mini base then fires up to the main base, and then that would A, look really, really cool, and B, be really, really functional, because it means we can have more elaborate buildings on the ground while still keeping all of our functional components in the sky. But I don't know how much I like that. I still want as much stuff on the base itself, but there are some annoyances when it comes to scrapping. For instance, it's not really feasible to use magnets on this base. A lot of people suggested it. It was a great suggestion, but I'll show you why it's a little bit weird. So, let's have a quick show off then why the magnet would be useful. So, if we're crafting items, once the item is crafted, the item is simply thrown away from the fabricator, sometimes way faster than the SCU can grab it. The magnet, on the other hand, is a fair bit faster. So, let's say we drop an item nearby, which will be difficult since we're in the air already. There we are. The magnet grabbed it instantly. The problem is the magnet will not give it to the SCU unless the SCU and the magnet are on separate vehicles. Then it's absolutely fine. The magnet always gives to the SCU. So, we could still use a magnet, but then we'd be doing stuff like this. So, we probably will end up using magnets, honestly. It's just, it's not a very clean solution, is the problem. And the same problem goes for the scrappers. We can't really throw items all over the place and allow the scrappers to grab them over time, like we normally would, unless we use magnets, and then very similar issues occur. Well, it turns out I was actually completely wrong there, and I am very happy to say I'm wrong here. So, the magnet will work in the scrapper section. It seems like the scrapper is dominant to the magnet, which means if we drop loads of stuff nearby, as soon as there isn't any space here, the magnet will grab it, but then as soon as there's space, the items from the magnet will go to the scrapper. There's still the issue of having to drop items sort of into space and hoping you're close enough by. It's very difficult to judge where you're dropping items. So it's still a lot easier to scrap on the ground, is what I'm saying. So scrapping huge volumes, maybe that'll be better on the ground. Smaller volumes we can do simply flying up in the air. Still, I'm happy to know about that, so we are actually going to use magnets. After my speech about how we're not going to use magnets. I'm open to change. So, with that then, let's get working. So, let's add 2 magnet posts. Let's at least build 1 hangar, which will be a little bit lower than we currently have this. And then, honestly, there's very little else I want to do before going back to the campaign. Let's just build this. Next episode, back in the campaign, getting the resources needed. Lathrix, why is this side heavier than this side? Oh, I don't know, viewer. Maybe because Lathrix completely forgot that this corner was empty. But seriously, I honestly thought I'd filled this section. This section's filled. This ain't. That would explain why it keeps on leaning towards the front and not the back. Also, Lathrix needs to stop referring to Lathrix in the third person so much. Lathrix is getting really confused about life. Okay, first little mini job done. We now have the GSO Fabricator and the Hawkeye Scrapper added, which means we can scrap any of the corporations and build any of the corporations for the equality of all. Next step, which side is going to be the hangar? I think left. Now, here's the thing. If I make both of them a hangar, I think it's going to be overkill because I doubt I'm going to have that many craft up at any given time. I can always build more later. Remember that because I'm going to be saying it a lot. So you don't need to remember it because I'll be mentioning it, but you get the idea. So, if we do have a scrapper here, what would we even use the other side for? I'm already running out of ideas here. I mean, there is plenty to add, but what do I need now? Oh, solar farm! Loads of, solar panels and stuff all in this area. That's what we need to add. Okay, so, hangar on the left, solar on the right, fabrication everywhere else. Lovely. And eventually, we also need to add weapons. I am tempted by missiles just for this craft, because even once we add more of the ion thrusters, we're still going to be so sluggish and so non-agile. Yeah, missiles would help out a lot, but I don't want to use missiles. If I do use missiles, I will use Venture, not Hawkeye. But I'll try to avoid it if possible. Now, one thing we need to find out immediately is just where is the build limit, because remember, there is a build limit in terms of size on the computer version. On the console, there's also a block limit, but thankfully that doesn't affect us. Okay, that goes all the way to there, and yep, that can no longer go out, so how many? 1... That's it. Okay, so this is the build limit. So really then, when it comes to this base, either we're going to have lots of vertical sections, so we add more as we go on, perhaps some rings going down, or we're going to have to make other stations in the future. Not quite sure which, but for now, let's just focus on the hangar. So I've been doing a few tests in terms of how we're going to actually anchor the drone to the main base, and a few things are possible. First of all, we just do something like this, we just have a gap in the hangar itself, we use our own sky anchor, and as you can see, it's completely stable, this won't move at all. But what we could do is use, if we go to experimental, things like the socket and all the other stuff here, which means we can simply anchor them in a more physical way, and then they really can't move. The problem with this is it's going to be very fiddly, and honestly, it doesn't really give us much in the way of a better result. So maybe we'll use those if we get them in the campaign, but for now, I think I'm just going to stick with this. So what I need to do now is increase the size of this area, make it look a little bit better at least, and then add some, if we go over here to power, some of the wireless chargers. Probably just the GSO ones, since they can be hidden a bit better, and honestly, we don't really need the range all that much. Because the base should be better at charging up than the little drones. So that undo didn't work. Thankfully, I was just testing out solar panels anyway, and that wasn't the final design, but still. Good to know the undo button apparently sometimes just doesn't want you to undo certain mistakes. Glorious power! Okay, so the idea is, every time there's a double connection, we add one of these, and then one more of these pillars going along. The pillars will then connect to maybe 4 of these, rather than the 8 we currently have, and we have that all the way to here, then extend this a little bit. They're saying that if I extend this, then the build size limit will be a problem. I guess I could push this back, though. We don't really need all of this. We need the anchor to be in place, but all this can be here. I just want this bit to look way more built up than the rest, that's all. So I'm also going to try and connect it a bit more to the main base, rather than just these quite weak connections. But I feel like this is a bit of an eyesore, honestly, a bit too big. Oh, more choices. Just checking how difficult this is going to be to actually land in. Not bad at all, actually. Yeah, it definitely looks a bit overkill. I think I'm going to shrink this down a bit. And honestly, I'm tempted to have a sort of scaffolding go all the way along here to the other side. It'd make the whole thing look more uniform and way sturdier. But then again, it's all about how difficult this is going to be to spawn into the campaign. Remember, this is the skeleton. It's not a finished product. Man, I say that way too much about my designs, but it's true. If I put everything I want onto this design, we won't see it in the campaign for maybe 10 more episodes. So, here's the current plan, at least the current idea. Having this scaffolding section here in the middle attached between the solar panel section and the hangar means we have a lot of space to build in the future. It'll be very easy to build platforms here if we actually get the platform items from experimental whilst we're doing all our missions, and it would be very easy to build a sort of defense tower in the center, or just some kind of storage tower which can hold the gyroscopes and hold loads and loads of batteries. It's just very easy to build off something like this, which is very, very good for the future. So my thinking is, we copy this all the way to here, then we diverge into the solar panel section so it looks pretty symmetrical up until the point where the two sections become unique. And I think that would look pretty good. And once again, it'll be so easy to build in the future. We can even have things hanging off quite easily using the hook system, using the socket system, which would be really, really interesting. Yes, I think this is what we're going with. Once again, planning for the future more than right now. I am not good at making things look good until they're completed, and even then, maybe I should just finish the sentence with, not good at making things look good. But still, I do try, and I love my builds anyway. So I've just put down a GSO magnet here, this way, yep, that's perfect. We can easily make sure that blocks get stuck with the SCU, we then let go of this, and one managed to almost fall off, but it was so slow it did get grabbed in time, perfect. Okay, so we have the GSO magnet there, we have the smaller magnets here, although they're not really needed as much for the scrapper, they just have a bit of a longer range. I may end up using some of the larger magnets anyway, but for now, just keep the smaller ones, we can always change that later. Okay. This looks more under construction than when I actually began the build. That's good. So I've had a little bit of inspiration. The idea here is that we're going to move these solar panels a little bit closer to the center in a moment, then everything here will be completely blocked off, and I think that would look really, really cool. That way we can have all our batteries and everything else in there, try to make it look like the solar panels are connected directly into our power storage, and I think that will just be really interesting to look at. I've also now realized that this base is clearly our scrapyard, it's clearly our construction area, it is the first base, and it's meant to be like that. This is where we recycle all of the lovely corpses we've been collecting, and turn it into far more valuable scrappers. We are scrappers, we will always be scrappers, it doesn't matter if we have these lovely, beautiful, better future items. I'm a scrapper. Okay, I actually really like this. Then we can always extend them off to the side later. So, do I want these to be a little bit further in? Actually, what I'm going to do is build upwards, and that way we can have the batteries all the way along here, touching the solar panels. Yeah, that looked really nice. I'm okay with that, honestly. Yeah, I like that. I do like that, especially now I'm going for the whole construction yard sort of feel. Still need somewhere to hide all the gyroscopes, but that will be something we do later once we start building on top of what we're building here. All we need to do is the skeleton today. Lovely. Now, what batteries are we going to use? We could use the Geocorp batteries. We are using quite a bit of Geocorp here and there, and considering construction yard, that does certainly fit the theme. We could use Hawkeye, but they're more expensive. Bit more difficult to get. And we do have quite a few Geocorp batteries already in storage, so once again, trying to make things a bit easier for myself, I think that'll work out quite well. Okay, I'll put down the batteries, sort out a few things here, finally finish off the hangar, then we need to do the shields and the repairables, and then, honestly, this is good to go into the campaign. This is the base form. Note to self, batteries are very, very heavy. Was not expecting that. So, For power per weight, I believe Venture is the best. Maybe we'll just have a row of these on the very top, so just one row of these. Rather than having them all the way up. Still going to need way more lift, though. Like, way more lift. Ignore the fact we're falling over, I just think this looks pretty cool. No, wrong way around. There we go. Just gonna gently smack right into the floor there. That's absolutely fine. Well, the good thing is, how I've done this, we have loads of space underneath the batteries, so each battery can easily have its own ion drive. Well done! You all win a free ion drive. And we are just naturally scrapping things as well, so that's pretty cool. Okay, we have some ion drives underneath the batteries. That's fine. So we can move these out of the way eventually. God, this thing looks cluttered. I kind of like that. And again, once we build up on top, we can add more stuff there as well. There we are, drop stuff for the SCU. So what to do next then? Let's complete the hangar section, then work on the shields and everything else. Is this enough storage, really? I mean, that's not much battery storage, but we are going to be constantly generating energy, so it's not too bad. Do we want more is the question, because we could add more. I love how that looks, though. I think I've decided on a name for our floating construction yard. This is going to be the Corpse Converter, where we break down and then rebuild corpses into things which are far more useful for our own cause. And I just like the name as well. So the Corpse Converter is nearly finished. We just need repair bubbles everywhere. I've shielded almost everywhere except for the batteries and the fabricator section. And honestly, it looks a mess. But I actually really like how it looks. It looks purposeful. And you know what? I'm happy with that. There we are. Let's drop that again. The magnets are definitely helpful. As someone who normally doesn't like using magnets, yeah, these were kind of needed since we are floating in the air and can't just use the ground to put down absolutely everything. So, let's continue. So many bubbles. All I can see are bubbles. Okay, so clearly we need the ability to turn this off, otherwise this is going to be horrendous moving forwards. So let's just quickly throw this down over here. There we are, and goodbye. Good, so we only turn them on if we're leaving the station alone, so it needs to defend itself, or if there's definitely enemies on their way. There are still a few blank spaces here and there for the repair bubbles, but the shields do seem to be covering everything. Doing one final test, well at least one of the final tests, and just making sure we can relocate with ease. I was just over there, and I'm now moving over here. What I want to do is go past all of these enemies here, turn to the left, go through there, and then stop somewhere in that location. Very vague things were said then, but the general gist of things is just go past the enemies, turn to the left, and stop. So far seems okay. Let's just strafe a little bit to the right. There we go. Yep, this thing can now strafe with actually pretty decent accuracy. Not exactly a joy to fly, I have to admit, but yeah, it's doing its job. Okay, going past the last enemy, now we turn. All is well. I could just stop still and turn if I wish to, but let's just do a very, very slow drift. And stop the drifting by using the strafe. There we are. And we're good to go. Now, let's say I want to stay still. Is that possible? Yes, it is. Lovely. Okay, yeah, control-wise, it's fine. It's not exactly going to be something I want to fly, but if we need to move out, we certainly can. Now, let's get low enough to actually activate the anchors would be nice. And we found a new home. Lovely. Still no weapons on this thing, though. I may wait until I've spawned it in for the weapons. I'm actually really happy with this. I know it looks like a junkyard, but I love the fact it's a junkyard. Well, I'm afraid I am all out of time for today's video. It's certainly not the prettiest base in the world, but I am actually really happy with it. The Corpse Converter will be the central base, which all other bases are surrounding, and I am just actually quite happy with this. We will be using the Better Future air receiver as well, and pairing this with some smaller bases underneath, and yeah, that's pretty much it. The only things we still definitely need to do is add weapons and make sure we have repair bubbles everywhere, but they can be done once it's actually spawned into the campaign. It is going to be very expensive, and we are going to need to build a little mini harvester base, but still, our first sky base is mostly complete. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that Terratech is a series you wish to see continued in the future. In the next episode, we're going back into the campaign, and work to build the corpse converter finally begins. If this is built in the next 2 episodes, I will be massively surprised, but incredibly happy. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. I love my messy builds like this. Functionality over prettiness.